So today we're going to be doing our training on our University of Mosul and Lindenwood University weightlifting joint training camp we have coming up here over winter break. So here's kind of the agenda of some of the things that we'll be going over today. We're going to start with a general overview of the entire experience and what exactly we'll be doing. Next, we're going to move into a daily itinerary that we will use to kind of map out the day. Next, we'll be going over the proper greetings, how we should greet them, how we can expect them to greet us, stuff like that. Then next, we'll go over some cultural norms. So what's common for them, and kind of you can compare how that's different to what we do. Next, we'll be going over the U.S. invasion of Iraq a little bit in 2003, just to give some basic historical knowledge. And we will also be going over ISIS as well, the occupation from 2014 to 2019. And then after that, we will go over some do's and don'ts. Going through that will move us right into our last subject, which is male and female coaching. So kind of the differences between that and what we should all do to make this go as smoothly as possible. So getting into our general overview here, as I've said, this is going to be a partnership with the University of Mosul weightlifting team. It's going to be held at Lindenwood in our weight room. Because this is over winter break, we won't really have to deal with overlap with any other teams because no one else is really going to be in there. So the biggest thing with this for us is we are helping them start their program and helping their athletes, some of them, start their weightlifting journey. So they are deciding to create this program as a way to incorporate more sports into their university. And so they chose weightlifting as it's an international sport, and we were able to set up a partnership where they're going to come here and learn from us in more than one way. And our goal is just generally to help them. So when we get to their team is going to be 10 male lifters, 10 female lifters, and as I said earlier, some of them are new to weightlifting, so that will be a little bit different of a coaching than the ones who are a little bit more experienced. They are mostly Arabs. That's the way that they would like to be preferred typically. This is not something that I would assume, but they are going to be ethnicity-wise more Arabs. So one of the big things to consider with them coming here, so they'll be here for 1 week, this December 16th through the 23rd. And the biggest thing about them coming here is it's going to be a 9-hour time difference for them. So the time difference is going to be a big factor in judging them, just their general levels of sleep. They're going to be probably decently sleep deprived for most of this trip. Unfortunately, usually it's about an hour a day for how much time you every day. So if you're 9 hours, it usually would take about 9 days to get accustomed to that. We won't even be here for 9 days. They won't. So they will be a little sleep deprived, but the goal is to help them get the most out of this trip and make it worth it for them. They all speak English, so there's going to be no translators needed. So some of their English may not be completely clear to you, but that's a situation where you're going to kind of have to use some common sense and fill in the blanks if you need to, if maybe their grammar's a little off, but understanding that this is their second language and it is difficult to learn English as a second language, very difficult. So just be patient with them a little bit. If you really don't understand what they're saying, you can always ask them to repeat themselves or to clarify a different point. So when we get to our training, during our sessions, we're going to have 2 of our LU athletes with 1 athlete. So that way we can have plenty of coaching, everybody can get involved and help, and also each athlete on the team will get some coaching from everyone. So getting into our itinerary here, we start off the day at 9 a.m. for breakfast. So this breakfast, all the meals will be with both teams, all the coaches. We have no class during this time period as it's over winter break, so we don't have to worry about class getting in the way or anything like that. But I would prefer for everybody to be there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That'd be nice. Obviously, if you have other things that are in the way that cannot be missed, I understand, but preferably we would like to have everyone at all the meals. So 2:30 is when we're going to begin our practice, right around the time we normally do. So it'll be similar for us and hopefully a good point in them for the day where they don't have to worry about missing prayer or anything like that. So the practice, as I've gone over, will help them. They'll watch us, try and understand what exactly we do and why it makes us so successful. And our practice will be about 2 hours long. We'll say it's going to end at 4:30. There's a chance it might go later. There's a chance that maybe we end earlier on some of the easier days. But since this day is going to be all about learning throughout the week, you can expect this to last for the full time and potentially a little later. And after that, we'll have our dinner at 6:30, which will be plenty of time between the end of practice and dinner to make sure everybody's ready to go and prepare our meals. So greetings. When you're going to meet them, the proper greeting is really going to depend on who you are and who they are. A lot of this has to do with gender roles in Iraq. So when men meet, it's just going to be a common handshake, just like it is in the U.S. That's what's seen as normal to them. It's respectful. So that's what we're going to aim for when men are meeting. When a man is meeting a woman, do not make physical contact. So be very respectful of their personal space. It might be a thing where you allow them to introduce themselves first to see what they're comfortable with, but just be cautious when meeting with them because if you go up to a woman and try to shake her hand immediately, that might be against what they're used to in Iraq. So I would just be very cautious of that. Make sure that it's something that you're aware of when meeting with them. Um, so for the girls on the team, when you're meeting the Iraqi men, understand the differences between what they're used to meeting women like and how you're used to. Obviously, in the U.S., when men and women meet, it's the same as when men meet, or women meet, it's all the same. But for them, it's different. So understand they might be a little bit more hesitant to shake your hand, or it might be just different to them. But in general, a handshake should still be a safe thing to do unless it's something that they're very uncomfortable with, which could be the case. When women meet in Iraq, they often hug and they kiss on the cheek. Obviously, you all do not have to do that, but that is common. So if someone does that to you, do not be surprised. Just if you would really like to avoid that, maybe you go for a handshake or something like that to stop that from happening. But that is what you can expect from them when they're meeting you. So, moving on to our cultural norms here. The most common religion in Iraq is by far Islam. It's about 95 to 98% or so. So, by far the most common religion that's, from my knowledge, all of the athletes visiting will be Muslim. So, take that into account when getting to know them. There are 5 Muslim prayer times. When they're on their trip, they are going to be at 5:44 a.m., 7:02 a.m., 11:51 a.m., 2:21 p.m., 4:39 p.m., and 5:58 p.m. So be aware of these times and understand that if they disappear during these times and you don't know where they are, these are going to be their times that they are going to potentially pray. Not all Muslims pray all 5 times of the day. Sometimes it's a combination of multiple prayers, but just be aware that they could potentially be gone at these 5 different times. Being late is normal in Iraq. So when we say our 2:30 start time for practice, there's a chance it might start a little later because in general punctuality is not extremely important to them. So that's just a cultural thing that it's not a sign of disrespect. Uh, Here in the US, not showing up on time could be a sign of disrespect, but it is not to them. So do not be offended if they're not exactly on time. But you can expect them to arrive around the general time due to the nature of our training and kind of the times that we have allotted. Do not be surprised if they offer us gifts when they arrive. Gift giving is a big thing in Iraq. It's very common for hosts to give gifts to um, visitors and visitors to give gifts to hosts. It's very common to do that. If you would like to give them gifts, that would be a great show of friendship and potentially, fostering a great relationship. That'd be a good thing to do. Obviously, it's not something that I think is required from us, but if you would like to, that I think that they would appreciate that. So it's pretty common to politely decline things, but then kind of just accept it after. So similar to in the US, just say, "Oh, no, you're okay." And then after you say that, then you can say, "Okay." Like, I thank you. Um, Avoid sitting with your shoes facing towards someone directly. This is not something that's common in the US, but in Iraq, it's a sign of disrespect, and it is not. It's something we should be aware of when sitting. Just do not have your toes in your shoes directly pointed at someone. It's common for Iraqi men to insist on paying, but they're not going to be outraged if we pay because we are the host, and so it is partly our responsibility to pay. And while they will want to pay, um, as host, it's all right for us to pay. In general, generosity is very important to Iraqis, so do not be surprised if they offer us gifts and things like that. So, moving on to the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq. In 2003, George W. Bush invaded Iraq. He cited the presence of weapons of mass destruction and the treatment of women as and instituting democracy as reasoning for why he invaded. We bombed a lot of the country, and there was a lot of destruction of infrastructure. Many Iraqi civilians died during this. So when you're talking to them, you need to understand that the relations between our country have been very strained. We did this to them, and obviously they know we're not the ones who have boots on the ground and did this, and not all American soldiers during this time are bad. They did not cause harm, but understand that some of them could have family members who died in this war, and understand that they could be a very sensitive topic for them. So this moves us into the ISIS occupation of Iraq. So Mosul, it was a ISIS stronghold for several years, and it's something that everyone in this region will remember. It was a very scary time. They were just trying to simply survive. So just understanding that their university was destroyed, and there's many personal experiences that they probably all had where maybe they were forced to hide in the mountains, or they had to give someone their house so that they could escape religious persecution. These are all things that really happen to people. So, in general, avoid these jokes or kind of just asking about ISIS or the invasion in 2003. Do not ask about these things because this is very traumatic for some of them. And honestly, for most of them, really, it will be traumatic experience that they all had. And so that leads right into our do's and don'ts here. So be respectful when interacting with the women. That's a given, obviously. But do be sincere when you're talking with them. It means a lot to them. So as I said earlier, do not talk about the ISIS or U.S. invasion unless it's potentially brought up by them. But if it is, make sure that you're being very sympathetic if you're talking about it. They give out a lot of compliments, so don't be afraid to compliment them. Definitely give them a compliment on their lift, on their shoes, anything, because that's very common for them. definitely consider the prayer times, like I said earlier, as these are things they're probably going to have to tend through throughout the day. Um, they are not very sarcastic in Iraq, so understand that if you make jokes that are potentially, sarcastic, it isn't probably not going to be super well received. Americans are very sarcastic people, but Iraqis are not. So do not make those jokes really because they will probably be taken the wrong way. So pork and alcohol is prohibited in Islam, so they're probably going to reject these items, and I would avoid offering these items to them just to not make it awkward. However, some Iraqis do drink, I've been told, so do not assume that they won't drink, but assume that they won't drink, but do not be surprised if they ask for a drink or talk about them. Do not take photos or videos without permission. This one's a given, but something that is definitely disrespectful to them. And do not make fun of their English. If you're unsure what they said, maybe ask them to repeat themselves or something like that. Just do not make fun of them or joke about poor English because they've been working very hard to understand their English for this trip. And so our last slide here is about male and female coaching. So Trent is mainly going to work with the male athletes, and Marina is going to work with the female athletes. Kind of keep our men's and women's coach with their men and women. So I would say try and coach within your gender. Try and coach within your group. You're going to have one teammate with you and then one Mosul weightlifter with you. So try and help them more. I think it'll keep the whole thing a lot cleaner. Understand that coaching the opposite gender could be uncomfortable for them. That could be very difficult for them to kind of get around, especially for my girls trying to coach men. That could be an issue for them. So before you start coaching them very heavily, it's probably good to find some common ground, right? These people are more similar than you think they are to us. There is a lot of similarities between us and them. Even though they're in a completely different country with a completely different culture, our generational similarities will definitely help you find some common ground and things that they understand. Just let them know they're doing well. Provide them with encouragement, compliments. Weightlifting's hard. They appreciate compliments. So by doing this, you're going to help stop them from being discouraged. So that's the cultural kind of competency training that I want to give you guys before we go ahead and do this week-long training camp. Hopefully this can all go smoothly and we can all get better, us as coaches and weightlifters and teammates and things like that, and really help them to create the best program that I know that they can have there. Thank you.